Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining our July commercial session. My name is Jenny Ching, and I'm a director and an investment advisor with KW Commercial. I am also a member of the education committee. Today's topic is Commercial Real Estate 101. This is a great topic for any realtors who are interested in getting into the CRE. And first, let me introduce today's speaker, Joe Lam. Joe is the founder of Azuras Holdings and Loan Direct, and he's a leading real estate financier with more than 30 years of experience in real estate and finance. He oversaw 16 billion in real estate finance transactions, and he's currently active in real estate development across the US and in Asia. And actually, Joe was here 4 years ago in 2021. I remember vividly that he was so popular that we have to invite him back today. I was checking our YouTube channel, and he had over 16,000 views on that presentation he did 4 years ago, and had a lot of positive feedbacks. So let's give a big warm welcome to Mr. Joe Lam.
Good morning. It's always a pleasure to be back here. Hold on. Always a pleasure to be back here. I love this crowd, and I love this board. And Pauline, hello. Hi, Pauline. Thank you for the invitation again. It's been 4 years since I was here last. So there's a lot of things that are happening. I'm going to stand back here because it's a little bit closer. I can see the. So a lot of things happening since 4 years ago. As 2021, it was COVID. We just got over COVID. And since then, there's a lot of things happen, real estate, both residential and commercial. And so today, let me check the room. How many of you are in commercial? About 30%. So some of the information are just review, but the updates are the forecast is going to be very useful. And for those of you in residential, it's going to be brand new for you. Education, as well as how to begin to get business in commercial. So that's going to be the key. You learn something, but if you can't get the business, there's no point, right? So that's definitely going to be covered today. If you would take a moment and connect with me through Facebook, I'm very active on there. I do post often as far as information on it, so it'll be helpful if you connect there. Cell phone as well. I answer the 12 hours a day. So, but I prefer text, by the way, because obviously text, you can ask more information, and I will call you back with the information that you're looking for. All right, so if you're in residential, what's the one thing in common about residential? Your clients work in the morning and the day. So you usually show homes in the afternoon or the evening and weekends. How do you like to work on evenings and weekends? Who likes that? They're emotional. Wife likes it pink. Husband would like it blue. Or east-west direction. Have you had that problem? Kids love it. The parents come back and say, no, I don't like this vibe. Emotional, right? So residential has a lot of impact on your life. Obviously, you work in the time that people are off. Your family's off. Commercial has much larger purchases. An average commercial, a small commercial in Los Angeles Basin was $4.8 million in transaction. Average home here, less than $1 million. Quicker repeat sales. Investors tend to come back and buy regular basis. So even on smaller purchase, 5 units apartment, an investor might be able to buy once a year. Whereas the residential could be 5-10 years before you see another sales. Last but not least, very stable asset. When's the last time landlord comes back to you and say, hey, I like you, let me reduce your rent? Pretty hard. So if the rents are stable and it's going up, you have a stable asset, right? All right, we're gonna go through some market updates. This is an average sales price of residential at the end of 2024. $420,000 across the country. Obviously, we know here's a lot higher, but this has some effect on what I'm going to talk about shortly. Interest rate has been going up since 2021, since we last met. So currently it's hovering right around 6.5% for residential. Commercial is around 7.5%, okay? So here's the key. As rates go up and prices go up, residential prices go up, what happened? People can't afford it. Here's an average example. Obviously, this is not California, but I'm using the average price in the nation, $420,000, 10% down, 6.75 interest rate, PITI is $3,100. And to qualify, you need to be at $83,000 in income. Remember, this is not California, it's nationwide. Where average income nationwide is not $83,000. This put a lot of people out of reach for homes. And if they can't afford a home, own a home, guess what? They continue to rent. And this is where investors come in, continue to buy apartments, multifamily. So the multifamily market, based on this example, remains extremely strong. As a matter of fact, the latest survey, more than 50% of population nationwide cannot afford a home. Higher number in California. Higher number in Los Angeles. It's an average rent for LA Basin or LA areas. This is fresh update. 1 bedrooms, 2,100, 22, 23 goes up to 2,400, and now it's closer to 27. They don't have the latest, but it's about 2,700. You see the rate increase there? It's tremendous. By the way, we do have the slides to provide, so anyone who wishes to have one, just email the team here, right? Okay. 3 bedrooms, above $4,000. Now, think about that for a minute. If you were to buy an average home in California here, $1 million, putting 20% down, your PITI is approaching $6,000. So that's even less affordable. Plus, not too many people have $200,000 readily available to put down, right? So again, multifamily remains strong across the country. When you in commercial, you have to be in the know. You can't just be like residential where you know your schools, you know whether it's safe, what's the walking distance is like. You need to know everything from the economy to the world, what's happening in the world, because it does affect our business. Who follows on the tariff situation since April? Religiously, one person. You need to now. You need to, because all of that's going to affect you and affect your investors on where they're going to put their money. It's going to affect, for example, New York has a new candidate, mayor candidate. He's a communist. So they're forecasting there's going to be a lot of people moving away from New York City. I'm not in politics, but I'm there to watch whether they invest in there or get away from there. So you have to be in tune with the market. CNBC should be on your watch list. Okay. Definitely stay on the news. Now, with the tariff situation, since April 2nd, many countries have now put on heavy tariff, 25% or more. To avoid that, they have to come back to the US. Now, President Trump even goes as far as hitting the movie producer or Hollywood people that take their movies elsewhere, then come back and sell because we're the biggest market. So while they live here, they go produce in France or wherever it is, so they don't have to pay expensive whatever the set is, and come back and sell it here. So again, all of those affect what's going to be. So a lot of movies, for example, have moved away from Hollywood because it's less expensive. So if you know that, then you know where they're going, and you can look to your investor to invest into where their destination is at, okay? So industries are important for you to pay attention. And you cannot cover all industry. If you're in commercial, the word commercial is very wide. It's not like residential. A house is a house. A house in Dallas is the same as a house in LA. Commercial has all facets. The type of commercial, which we talk about, the businesses that runs commercial, okay? So therefore, you have to kind of pick a lane after you learned a little bit about what the categories are. Politics, the same as what I just mentioned earlier. In the recent announcement, there was $500 billion going to Dallas, Texas to build AI, for AI purposes. What do you think AI needs? Any idea? Power, industrial, right? So very similar to a couple of years ago, I think more like 8 years ago when Tesla moved to Austin. Everybody goes there, all the jobs moved there, housing went up. So you have to be in the know of where industries are going, right? AIs go in certain places. Phoenix, for example, is a big hub for AI. TSMC, which is the largest chip manufacturer in the world, is moving to Phoenix with $200 billion. So would you recommend somebody who has a vacancy here, maybe a half full hotel, maybe get rid of that and deploy that asset somewhere else? You're doing him or her a favor. You become financial advisor rather than just real estate agent. We don't want that. We want to be in the know. All right, so we're going to basic concept for commercial real estate, a little bit boring for those seasoned agents. All right, in commercial, we have asset types. Make sure you use the right language, because if you call CBRE and not use the right language, they may not return your call. Very important. Those people are stuck up. They think we're residential agents or juniors. Multifamily. Multifamily is anything above 5 units. Technically, we call them apartments. Now, the multifamily market, because the price has gone so high, a lot of people invest in multifamily in 4 units, which is fourplex. Granted, the definition is fourplex, still residential, but a lot of people that are starting commercial are investing in smaller 4 units, 5, 6, a little bit more expensive. So for all intents and purposes, multifamily will refer to 4 units and up, even though in commercial it is 5 and above, okay? Senior housing. Senior housing is technically apartment complex with additional services. So when you take a building and put in a special service, it becomes something else, right? You designate, for example, 55 and above, means no one else under 55 can get in. So it becomes a specialty product. Retail. Retail is where we at. Where we're here, it's considered retail. Anything that has stores, that's considered retail. Now, to the left, you're going to see Starbucks. That's called single tenant retail. If you ever run into single tenant retail, there's 2 things that you have to pay attention. One, if there's an existing tenant, they have to be credit tenant, like Starbucks, McDonald's. If it is vacant, your clients better go and do something for themselves. If they open a restaurant, they're going to open a restaurant, that would work. But if you buy vacant, single tenant, very hard to finance. On the right side, it's multi-tenants. Most banks prefer 5 or more. So if you're selling and if they're not paying cash, always consider what you can finance, because obviously that's important. Offices are a dying breed. There are great opportunities in offices, which we'll talk about shortly, but many cities are allowing now offices to turn to lofts. So you have to follow up with your cities and present that as an opportunity to your investor. There's another interesting use for offices, which are being used all over the world, except for us here in California. We're a little bit behind. Some areas has it, like downtown LA, Anaheim, Orange County now has it. It's mixed use, which is retail on the bottom and then apartments on top. Okay, and that's actually become very popular nowadays. Industrial. This is huge. As companies come into USA, and according to the Trump administration, there's over $5 trillion are coming into USA. Guess what? They have to deploy that somewhere, and they need real estate. That's the first thing that any company come in need. Now, I'm from Vietnam. I frequent Asia. So many opportunities are coming from wherever you are from. You have to make sure you're in the know. You have to be in contact with, again, your native country, because a lot of those companies are looking for some help. And so we're here, we're speaking their language. Of course, we're going to be more prefer, right? So definitely pay attention for that. Get involved with groups such as this board and a lot of global boards that you should get involved with. Specialty use. If you put something in a building, for example, this building, you put in cannabis, it immediately becomes cannabis use building, even though it's a retail building, right? So be very careful with specialty use. Now, you're gonna see self-storage is one. In the middle is hospitality. That's hotel, motels, gas stations, automotive, there's plenty. But anytime you have a specialty use, consider that it's no longer just a general commercial, right? Example, if you have a car repair below, it's considered automotive. Asset class. Unlike residential, you either say it's newly renovated or not, right? Or fixer. In commercials, go by A, B, C, D. A is obviously the top rank. B is typically what you see. And C is the least that you want to get into. D would be your fixture, be your renovation, so forth. And you can see kind of the picture kind of give you an idea what the classes are. And also in the A, not only the building has to be new, whatever it is, but it have to take into amenities. You have to have pools, gym, et cetera, before it can go to the class A. Example, you gotta go to a hotel class 5-star. Immediately they have to have a gym, spa, and restaurant, otherwise it cannot be 5-star. That's the way they rate it. MSA, very important, you know, by MSA. Now, we're lucky, we live in LA. Everywhere is dense, high density. But if you're in the outer skirt, Victorville, for example, it may not meet the criteria of your bank. Most banks will lend only major MSA, right? Again, if you're not buying cash, it's important. Work with your bank, ask them where they lend, what the MSA is. That's basically your population count. If you run into MSA for San Gabriel, it's in a high population, high density. And the way they count it, major metro is above 250,000. Under that is non-major, but still workable. And rural is anything under 20,000. Bakersfield, for example, will have a hard time to get finance compared to here. That's just natural, right? Environmental, extremely important. All properties that are commercial, even vacant land, cannot go through escrow, at least if the buyer's intelligent, without a phase 1, which is the environmental report. Very similar to an appraisal report, but there's no value. It just say what that land has been used, if there's any contamination. So the phase 1 is to tell you if there's any contamination. If you're unlucky as a seller and you have contamination, the phase 2 is to remedy it. And that could be the oil tank for a restaurant. They collect oil. They have a tank down there. It may leak. So you have to dig down, get it out, extract a certain amount of dirt. It could cost you anywhere from 20,000 to 100,000, depends on how severe that is. So phase 2 is what you don't want to hear. Phase 1 is the test, the report. Phase 2 is to cure whatever phase 1 said. All right, let's look at financial analysis. This is the key. If you walk away with anything today, this is going to be important. There are 2 types of financial analysis. One to the left is owner-user. Owner-user is very simple. If you're buying it to use, let's say you have a restaurant, you want to open second location, we'll look at what your first restaurant's doing to see if you can afford the second location. That's a no-brainer, almost like you buy a second home. The right is a little bit more complicated. Investors, they look at the income and the net operating income. Skip that. All right, for investor purpose, the property must have income. In other words, if you have a vacant property, there are 2 things you can do with it. Pay cash or go with hard money. don't call any bank. Don't waste your time. Hard money is 50% down, 12% rate. So if your buyer's not ready for that, definitely find something with lease going on, with tenants going on, okay? Lenders will use NOI to qualify. So what is NOI? NOI is rental income plus additional income like washer dryers, for example, minus expenses. Very much like your business. You bring in $10,000, you spend $6,000, then you end up making $4,000. Here's a form that you can put together. The forms are available. By the way, we can email this to you. It's free to use. You can delete the logo and so forth. No issue there. But it would be helpful. If you are taking a listing, you must have this form prepared. A lot of people, a lot of listings on LoopNet or CoStar do not have this one because a lot of residential agents are trying to be commercial nowadays, right? They call it resi commercial, what's the residential that have the commercial? Resi-mercial, there you go. Lenders look at debt coverage ratio. In order to get debt coverage ratio, you must have the NOI, which is the formula earlier. The NOI is the income that the property generate after expenses divided by your monthly obligation to the bank. So example, if your net income per month is $12,000 and your payment to the bank, the mortgage, is $10,000, that's a 1.2 ratio. Most large banks prefer 1.25 and above. Some banks like Chase would want 1.35. Some no-brand bank might consider 1.1, but no one will go below 1. Okay? So if you are looking to make an offer for your clients, you have to do this test first. Because otherwise you make an offer, they accept it, and you cannot get financed. Now, a lot of people now buying, even though banks allow you to put 20, 25% down, because of this formula, it doesn't meet the 1.2 ratio or 1.25. Now they have to put more down payment to push the mortgage down to qualify for it. So down payment, especially now rates are approaching 7.5%, 8% for commercial mortgages. This formula will have to be carefully considered before you make any offer. Again, this form is available for you to use. Cap rate usually doesn't play into lending, but your clients will want to know how much money am I making from my investment. So cap rate formulas are right there. You still need the NOI to get the cap rate. So cap rate is typically discussed with a potential investor. In LA, Orange County, you'd be lucky to see 4% cap rate because we're in a desirable market. We're in a high demand. In Riverside, you might see 6 to 7%. In Dallas, Texas, you might see 8%. So it depends on where you are, depends on the demand of the areas. Your cap rate will follow as well. Now, most investors, seasoned investors, they're willing to take a little bit of risk. Example, we have people are going to Indiana now because here's 4% cap rate, go over there 12%. So they're willing to take a little bit of risk. So again, it depends on investor, their tolerance for risk. You would discuss that with them. What is your tolerance for risk? What return do you want? You want to be next to here, making 3, 4% cap, or you want to be a little bit further, making 8% cap? You need to discuss all of that with them and what the risk involved. Here, they can drive by and take a look at it. Over there, they need someone will be watching for them, right? So all of those are discussion. Now, having said that, that opens a whole new world for residential agents. What happened within residential agents is that you work in an area, 10, 20 miles maybe. Maybe if you're really good at driving, 40 miles. Out of that, you can't work, just referral. The beauty with commercial, your investor can buy anywhere if the opportunity is right. Investors don't care. Give them the right opportunity, they'll buy it. Rent roll is another thing that you will need to have if you list a property or if you are looking to buy for your clients. You need to get one. Now, we know the NOI, which means we know what the rent is monthly. However, if all the leases ended now and the market's trending down because vacancy, I don't want it because obviously it's going down. If the leases are ending soon and the market's trending up, we want it, right? So therefore, this is very important to see how long the leases are left. Maybe they had signed it 5 years ago. Their prices during COVID was low. So it's a great time to buy. So it might be capped at 3%, but if you have rents are ending soon, you might be able to see a 6-7% cap after the raise. Now, remember that we're talking about class A, B, C? Also, if you're buying something for class C, for example, and you have planned for renovation in, let's take multifamily. You buy it for $200,000 per unit, per door. You put in $20,000, $25,000, it becomes class B. Now the rent goes from $2,000 to $2,500 overnight. So that become a new calculation. So you have your present as is value, you do the calculation, you do projected value, your clients can see, hey, you're at 4% cap, but if we do X, Y, Z, you look at 8% cap in 1 year, right? So that's what a commercial agent needs to do. A lot of analyzing the numbers. No longer look at directions where the house is at, but it's about how you present the case to them. Typical down payment for owner user, 5 to 10% down, 10 to 20% rather. Investor, typically banks require 25% down as guideline, but because the NOI is low, most investors in California now are paying up to 40% to meet that number. And for some reason, if you just simply don't have the income, most hard money lenders now lend at 50% down. Market forecast. This would be the most interesting segment here. Multifamily, we just discussed that with shortage in housing, the prices in housing, likely want to see very strong in multifamily for the next 3 years. There's good chance that we're going to see some relief in interest rate, but the current Fed chairman won't retire, be replaced until 2026. So we have almost another year. Until then, we may not see the 5% rate. It might drop a little bit, but we need to see about 5% rate for residential to pick up again. People can afford to get into houses again, and that would be another year. So until then, multifamily is still strong. Rent are still really strong in most markets. Senior housing. Every day, 10,000 people turn 65 for the next 10 years. That's 36 million people. If that's the market you serve, you're going to be busy. So what can you do with senior housing? Buy multifamily, add services, it becomes senior housing. So again, if you buy multifamily at 3-4% cap, you learned your trade in senior housing and added those services, now your cap might be 10% or more. Present that to your investor. Industrial, we already talked about it, $5 trillion in opportunities. You need to research where it's at. Give you an example. Elon Musk bought a small town, well, a lot of acreage, so small town near Galveston, Texas, which is, no one even cares down there. Now he's called that city Starbase. Guess what happens around there? Opportunities, because as he opens additional jobs, people are going to want to go there, right? So again, investors don't care what it is. You just present the opportunity to them. Don't close your mind and say that it got to be here because it may not be here. All the buildings are overpriced or whatever that market that it might be in, okay? Self-storage. This is a huge business because as people move into apartments, live in apartments, transient, they move, let's say they have a job here, they transfer to Austin, for example, they're going to use storage naturally, right? So self-storage has been strong and it will continue to be so. Additional with the storage, I want to be add one more. Some industrials are also storage because a lot of people, industrials have been, you actively work your business there, but a lot of companies will have a retail store here, but they have their warehouse space somewhere else, right? Because they just can't afford to lease space here to have warehouse. So storage is very strong. Obviously, you got to find where it's geographically located and so forth. Now, within the LA Basin, right now, we just met with the mayor of San Bernardino. We see there's an opportunity there in that city. Definitely look into it. There's a big push to rebuild the city after bankruptcy. 2026 is the key. So if you want a hint to which city to look at around here, San Bernardino is going to be happening. We do have direct contact with the mayor if you need any help on any projects to consult to see whether that's going to work. We can help contact with Teresa or I. We can certainly help you with that. All right, so resources. If you new, just use LoopNet. It's free. Register for an account. You can get access to about 80% of things on there with no cost. Craxi is a little bit less expensive than CoStar, about $199 a month. I think, don't quote me on that, but it's about $200 a month. CoStar is expensive. I wouldn't recommend CoStar unless the whole office get CoStar for one seat, right? So that would be something you. And then I encourage you to get involved. Whichever lane you want to travel, let's say multifamily, there's a lot of multifamily events. This one's passed already, it's June 3rd, but they do come back often. So you have to start to learn the market, get involved. So again, I didn't put everything on there, but if you like industrial, there are, Vegas, they do the industrial show every year. So you just got to go there, right? They bring all the products in from all over the world. You got to be involved with that. But again, get involved, get on LoopNet. If you can afford Craxi, that would be recommended. That's it, just question and answer.
Joe, you mentioned earlier to me that the commercial market is coming back and it's very strong. So, and then you mentioned a lot of places to invest. Can you elaborate that a little bit?
Absolutely. Let me talk about something closer to home. Obviously, we're talking about LA, Southern California. So I mentioned the city, San Bernardino, would be great. Right now, a lot of companies are putting their warehouse in Bakersfield, Victorville's area and so forth, up the 15. However, that's a little bit farther, right? Further distance than to deploy the product so far. San Bernardino has a lot of land. And still relatively cheap. That would be great for smaller companies' warehouses. You can't really put Amazon there because obviously they demand so much. But a lot of companies are looking for warehouses right now to put their products in here. My clients just bought two industrials in Garden Grove, $2.5 million from Vietnam. So that's $5 million in sales and from one client. I know that's a small company, but there are multiple of those companies. There are hundreds of those companies that are coming in. So a lot of people are changing their import habits. Now they're hitting China. So a lot of companies are again trying to navigate around that quite a bit. So now, additionally, near us, Phoenix is a good opportunity. A lot of people don't want to go far because investors say, "Hey, I just want to be near." Phoenix is a great opportunity. There's about $1 trillion going to Phoenix in the next couple of years. TSMC is the biggest one. And so that's a good opportunity there. Now, when you go in, a specialist for a small-time investor, multifamily, very easy. It's the same here than there, right? Present at 10 units, you can probably get $200,000 a door there, brand new. Here, you'd probably be at $300,000 for a rundown, right? So very inexpensive to get into those areas, and they'll grow fast, okay? Now, lastly, look at conversion. Conversion is the key. Land use is going to be the key. You know that in this area already people are building 2 homes in 1 lot, right? Very similar to commercial. The zone that was given 40, 50 years ago is not the same zone as today. So you work with the city to say, what can I do with this building? As a retail, 1-story retail, maybe 5,000 square feet building on 20,000 square feet lot. Maybe no one's paid attention, but you can convert that to 10,000 square feet. You just double its value. Okay, so working with cities, the planning is really you have to be your friend. Make friends with them.
Another question I have is, we are talking about U.S. commercial market here. I know that overseas, especially in Vietnam, that's where we come from. It's booming right now. It's a lot of, because of tariff, a lot of company in China and other country invest in Vietnam and do a lot of, business there. Elaborate that a little bit, because you travel to Vietnam a lot.
Great question. So there's a lot of migration throughout the country. So it's not just here. Give you an example. There's a friction with China since COVID, right? So a lot of companies are looking at ways to move away from China. There's potential wars in the Korean Peninsula. A lot of companies are looking to build second location, like Samsung's in Vietnam. I can go on about those examples. But if you involve with the global groups, generally speaking, they'll come to you for help with that. So you have to definitely get involved with the global group. You don't have to necessarily travel there every month like the way I do, but if you're involved with the groups that deal with global, you will learn a lot about that. Ukraine people are moving Thailand. Ukrainian and Russian, as a matter of fact, now Thailand's the second home. So again, there's a lot of that migration. Doesn't have to be the U.S. And so we have a lot of opportunities as bilingual to be able to capture that business as well.
Any question?
There's one in the back. I can hear, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. You're very experienced and you're a land developer too. I haven't done much in land development. I want you to give me some ideas. Let's say if I see a piece of land about 20 to 25,000 square feet located in a particular city, decent location, the selling price is reasonable. If I want to buy that piece of land, it's vacant now. What would be the approach in developing it? I checked with the city and they allow mixed use, meaning it's like Atlantic Times Square. On the downstairs, you can have commercial shops. Upstairs, you can build residential. How would I go about, from your experience, to develop a piece of land like that?
Okay.
Or should I just give it up?
Oh, no. So I'm involved with 2 projects currently, but let me give you an example. So when you deal with land development, there's a couple of things that you need to look at. One is the growth pattern of the city. Where is it going? Give you an example here. We're going to grow west, right? So Riverside and so forth. You can't go to the ocean. San Jose, you go south, which is Gilroy and et cetera. So you look at that pattern. You go to, if you know about Texas, from Dallas to Austin is the I-35. So again, you got to predict that to be able to get the right piece of land, right? Now, the ultimate piece of land that you want to get is agricultural land because that's the cheapest, farmland. If there's growth pattern on there, the city most likely will allow you to convert that to some sort of commercial, right? We hope that's going to be the case because you're going to buy at $1, you might be able to have $5 value. And that's the second thing. Pick smaller cities. So if you're in LA, you're going to go to, again, Riverside, whatever. This is a lot easier. And the Riverside is still a big city, but you get my drip on that. Easier to get permits and what have you. Now, once you find the land, look at the maximum use for that. So we did a piece in Gilroy. One piece bought for $3.2 million, 2 addresses, because it's facing, it's on a corner. We split into 3. And 1 year later, it's just appraised for $4.5 million without doing anything. All we did is split it in 3 lots. So we didn't do anything yet, okay? So I have to look at your lot to have an idea, right? Is it best used for residential? Is it best?
And the city allows a lot of latitudes on what I can do on it.
Mm-hmm.
So
What's the square footage?
22,000 square feet.
Okay. And what city is it again?
City of Azusa.
Azusa. Okay, so you're in the major metro.
And the price is very reasonable.
Yep, in the major metro areas. So I would probably look at right now, multifamilies is going to be the hottest because we talk about the rent are going up like crazy. So I would favor. You could do the mixed use as well. The only problem with mixed use is you're going to find that later when you sell it or when you look at finance it, mixed use is a little bit harder to finance than your multifamily or retail, right? Anything that is out of the ordinary is harder to get financed than it is just regular. So again, mixed use is out of the ordinary because again, that's a newer class of real estate. In the old days, they either have retail or they have multifamily. Now with that mixed use, a lot of banks don't finance it. So again, you have to consider that when you go through your project. And one thing that also, when you build, you need construction loan. Construction loan to build for a mixed use is hard to get than a construction loan for a multifamily. Okay. Now, last but not least, some cities allow for zero parking. I'm not saying Azusa, but example, San Jose allow for zero parking, means you can use most of that lot. I don't know if that's the case, but you should explore the parking situation. Because retail, you may need more parkings, right? So look at the parking use and the requirement before you decide what you're going to build on it, because that could eat up a lot of your land. Help? Okay. And we can talk more later as well.
For conversion fee, I'm thinking about for tenant convert into a landlord. But for right now, the multifamily property is so hot and rent is so high. So it will be very attractive for tenant to become a landlord right now. But what is the minimum? And will lender also require like managing experience from them?
So let me answer that in two ways. One is the residential aspect of it. So
Residential.
right now, obviously, if you're going to buy a home here, it's going to be $1 million. And again, very hard to qualify. We did that example. If your client's buying 4 units, well, they live in one. The other 3 units income can count towards the income to pay the payment. So their requirement for income to qualify is much less, right? Granted, it's more expensive. Let's say it's $2 million for 4 units. But again, you're going to receive income from 3 units. So that's a great way to break into what you just said for residential. So definitely multifamily for new buyer will help them to qualify more, and also allows them to be more stable because they don't have to worry about the entire payments, which is very high now. Now, the one thing I love is commercial. Persuade the owners that are running businesses to own their own building. How many people go get your nails done? Haircuts. Come on, all of us, right? Eat, restaurant. If you go into a sizable restaurant or shop, say, wow, you have a really nice shop. I'm a commercial real estate agent. You're probably paying 15 grand. Something like, obviously you should know your markets. Yeah, I'm paying 15 grand. Do you know you can actually own this building, putting 10% down? The government's help you with that. Why are you paying rent to somebody else? Have 10 of those conversations a month. Guarantee you have one interest buyer. How easy was that to say? A lot easier than asking 10 buyers to buy a home, right? Trust me, business people listen. They know numbers. Now, also take that. Pass your business card. So you have 2 versions. One said tenant rep. You know, tenant rep means you negotiate for new leases. Hey, I'm a local tenant rep with whatever company you're with. Next time your rent's up, I'd love to help you. I come to your restaurant all the time. I mean, would they say no? Absolutely not, right? Now, when that time's come, persuade them to consider 2 options. New leases or buy. It'll be cheaper to buy, right? The government allows you to buy your own building, use 51%, lease out the other 49%. So example, I'm in a 5,000 square feet, paying $3 a square foot at $15,000. Now I'm buying a 10,000 square feet building, paying $25,000 in mortgage, and someone else paying me $15,000 on the other unit. Is that better? That's where the opportunity is at. Present it with numbers. That's the way to go. You don't go in with emotion, go in with numbers. Let me ask an interesting question. Who is not good with math? No, that was a joke. But we have calculators now, right?
What is your take on the density bonus as a?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
What is your take on the density bonus as a developer?
Well, you have to, depends on city and the county and the state. Remember, when you develop land, there's 3 layers of laws you have to go through. Certain state laws overtake city and county. But if it doesn't fit the state laws, then you have to go to state and county. the density is going to be the key. It's in the parking. The parking requirement eats up a lot of your space, period. If you have retail, for example, they're going to want 2 parkings per 1,000. You know, if you have certain things, they may allow 1. So there you go. You just cut your parking to half, right? If it's a fast food, they allow half, for example. So it depends on what you put on it. That's the first thing that I would look at land development. If you have a big land, who cares? But like 20,000 is not a lot. That's important. Okay.
'Cause it feels like you're definitely getting some perk on being allowed to build higher density.
Mhm.
But then at the same time, if you are forced to rent it out at a lower rates, then what's the catch there?
Oh, you're talking about the rent control?
Oh, no, just residential. If, let's say, a land was originally allowed maybe 60 units per zoning,
Right.
but through density bonus, you can build 50% more of the units, but then the amount of unit under low income housing, it's what is the benefit there for?
I'm not suggesting low-income housing. Low-income housing, it's only work when you build certain size, and the city allows you a certain percentage within the 20,000 shouldn't be in that category, right? Now, if you do your calculation, again, take an average of LA, you would find that residential now lease is higher than commercial today. Okay, I bet you this building, the one we're in, is less expensive than residential if you do the calculation.
Got you. Right. Thank
Per square footage, by the way, so.
Can you share with us what's the difference for commercial loan application and the residential, and what we need to know to prepare when we want to assist our client, and maybe go through with your service?
Well, great question. Now, I'm here again as friends of the board, so even if you call me for not using our service will be perfectly fine, okay? So I'm a commercial teacher, so no problem. When you call and say, I have a commercial deal, doesn't mean anything to me. We already discussed commercials, multifaceted. Come with a direct question. I have multifamily, 20 units in LA. That's a start. Do you have NOI? You have rent roll. 3 things, that's it. Don't need to tell me about the buyer's 800 FICO score or whatever it is, because if the building doesn't qualify, then the buyers don't qualify either. So you have to qualify the building first. Then you present that to buyer. Hey, based on this calculations, you can only borrow 50% of the purchase price. Are you okay with it? Before you even go any further. No need to pull credit, no need to check their financial, because if building doesn't qualify, you forget it, right? So does that help? Yeah, very simple, just 3 things. And by the way, if it's listed on LoopNet, you just send me the address, I can hop in, and most of the time they have it, right?
Joseph, I always have this question. What's the difference between the 2 companies?
Azura Capital is for commercial. Loan Direct is the parent company. We lend that residential nationwide. But again, it's the same company. And we are now have been involved a lot with development. Right now, we do land development for 6 projects, 320 units apartments in Davenport, which is near Orlando. Follow that, there's a 3,000 units, $1 billion projects right behind that. We're doing the Gilroy projects. So we're doing a lot of land development, that's what investors want to go, because they can go buy it for $1 and it becomes a $4 or $5, in a very short time. Oh, default ratio, great question. Default ratio on commercial is creeping up, but it's nothing where we should be worried about because the down payment is so high. Default is no issue. In other words, banks are not worried about it. They'll just take it back. There's plenty of room to not lose money on it. Same thing with residential. Yeah, because in the old days, you remember 0% down? Nowadays, we don't have those anymore, so the default is not an issue. The question was office.
Office, yeah, the market of office, because I have a client rent the office, one office, but it takes a long time.
Mhm.
It sounds like very slow. For office market.
Yeah, the office market is very soft since COVID, and we don't expect for it to come back for another 4 or 5 years. There are efforts to bring in employees. Some companies and even the federal governments bring that, but it takes a while to correct that. It doesn't come back immediately because people who are working remote, they may choose to not come back at all. So it will take time to fill those jobs, and it will take at least another 5 years before you see it back in the pre-COVID day. And it might come back in different format. Now, before COVID, we were already paperless in 2017 rather. After COVID, companies are going paperless because you can't be in your desk anymore. So right now, because of that, they don't need the big space anymore. In the old days, you have a big cubicle with 4 or 5 drawers and so forth. Nowadays, you need just small desks. So it might reduce the requirements for offices as well. Also, they do have mixed shift. So a lot of companies maximizing, going first shift and second shift, et cetera. So that, again, reduce that. But the existing offices, conversion is a big thing right now. So offices convert to either multi-use or convert to loft. Loft style is very popular in downtown LA, for example. So a lot of downtowns are doing that. San Antonio, Dallas, Houston, you start to see a lot of downtowns because nobody goes downtown anymore. So take those, convert it, and now, again, people are coming back to the cities to live, so.
Yeah, I'm not clear the question, but I want to ask you a question. The question is regarding I'm talking about residential or the land, vacant land, right? The land for the buyer, we usually will say they do diligence, right? Right now I have a listing like 2 address on the 1 lot, but I go to the city, they say if someone buy after 3 years, they could maybe qualify to divide the land. My question is how do I, when the investor buy or coming to with me, how do I don't know how to say, promotion, those kind of potential things. I don't know, I suggest, they're gonna build at the beginning or later on.
So the land split or lot split is a complicated process. I wouldn't recommend to go out there on your own without having somebody that has experience with that. So connect with a builder. If you don't have one, I can connect you with one that has done that successfully. You have to get the address, make sure you validate, right? Hey, did you split that? Like my builder split 3 lots in Gilroy, for example. Make sure that they know how the process before you take that on. But that is definitely a good opportunity. There's a couple of codes that you can do that, but the state code is the SB9. Read up on that. There are a lot of YouTube videos on that. You can read up on that. But again, use a specialist so that you're not putting yourself out as a realtor and take the liability of the builder, potential builder, right? Always partner up with someone. That's really important. Land is very hard to get financed, but if it's a good piece of land, you can get 50% down on it. So you can finance with 50% down. But it's, again, if you get piece of land that is out nowhere and it's in a rural area and so forth, there's no way. But in the city, absolutely, we can still finance it. Be expensive, be 10-12% rate. So make sure your buyer's aware of that. But I would tell you, the way we buy land is we go and say, hey, Mr. Seller, we'll put 25-30% down. You carry it for a year or 2, and that's the way we do it. And then within a year or 2, we already have plans to do whatever. We have plans, permits. Then we're going to sell it with plans and permit with increase in value, or we build it, right? So usually make offer with the seller because lands are harder to sell. Not too many people willing to do that. If they're sitting on the market for 6 months, make that offer. You write an offer in 10 minutes, right? Send it in. Okay, so start with the seller first before you go with hard money. I think that's all the questions. Well, thank you so much for the time. Looking forward.
Isn't this a great class? Yeah, without going into the extensive CCIM class, you learn all the basic commercial information. So, thank you, Joe, for your informative presentation. So on behalf of the West San Gabriel Valley Realtors Association, I'd like to present you this.